Hi everyone, it's Oliver here, and I'm back with Rob Hill to continue the RoboCop commentaries, and this time it's on everyone's favourite RoboCop 3. Now, my good friend Audie Sully was going to join us as well, but sadly he had scheduling conflicts. So Rob, before we make a start, you said for years RoboCop 3 was at the top of your list of the worst movies you've ever seen. Is that still the case?
No, absolutely not. No, researching the Bad Movie Bible took care of that. It purely and simply because I loved RoboCop. I don't think we've really got into this before, but RoboCop is I'm a bigger fan of RoboCop than I am even Terminator and Alien and the other classics that we've covered. So when RoboCop 3 came out, I was genuinely offended by it. I thought it's one of the most disappointing film experiences I've ever had. And I ignored it for years. I went back to it a couple of times, still hated it. And yeah, watching it this time, to be honest, it's finally kind of not clicked as such, but it's finally shown itself to have some value to me.
Well, that's interesting to know. Gone from you've hated this movie to I kind of give it a slight pass,
Yeah, do you know what? I genuinely enjoyed watching it this time. There was a lot more funny stuff in it than I remembered.
Oh yeah, especially Rip Torn.
Yeah, exactly.
He knows what he's in, and he just amps it up to be just Rip Torn.
That's what Rip Torn does, man. You hire Rip Torn, you're going to get Rip Torn.
Shouty Rip Torn. It's great. So everyone, you can enjoy this podcast by itself, but if you wish to sync it up to your own copy of the film on Blu-ray or NTSC DVD, put the timestamp to 0 and press play now. I saw this, it must have been late 94 or early 95 on VHS. So this film was intended to be released in mid 1992, and then it got put on the shelf because Orion had financial problems. It wouldn't come out in America until November of 1993. Now, it was shot in May of 91, so for those involved with the production must have been waiting around for the premiere, not knowing when it was going to come out. And for RoboCop fans in the UK, we had to wait until June of 1994 with Columbia TriStar distributing it. So that's hence why I kind of saw it late, because it's still a 15 in the UK, so I had to wait for it to come out on VHS to rent. And I was of that age, so it was kind of I was 12 years old, and this film did appeal to me because it had RoboCop flying around, had samurai cyborgs or ninja cyborgs, and he had a cool gun arm. And that was the kind of thing that appealed to me because there was action figures at the time, even though I was at that age where you started to sort of wean off action figures and you just kind of focused on video games. Because anyone found out you were playing with action figures if you were 13 or 14, it'd be quite embarrassing. So, but I really kind of saw it was a massive change in tone, and the violence had been muted. And because obviously I'd seen the other two prior to this, so I was expecting over-the-top violence and gore, and it was very much of the ilk of the TV show, which was kind of aimed at kids. Even though this is kind of a little bit more violent than the TV show, because hence the rating, but it was clear from the get-go that this was a family-friendly movie.
Yeah, and I think folded into that is the whole problem with this child we're cutting to every now and again now. Not only was it made for family audience, it was it starred a family effectively, which I think is, looking back, is what I had the biggest trouble with. When you're young, I don't know what it is, but filmmakers always seem to think that if you put a child in a movie, then the kid's going to relate to that child and going to enjoy. But we grow up watching James Bond or whatever it is, and we don't want to relate to children when we're children. I don't think we want to relate to James Bond and these guys. So I never quite understood that, and I personally I'm on record for saying that children are the worst thing you can do to a movie, is given any, and generally speaking. And this one, she's good, she's fine, but I don't know. The second one got away with it because the kid was an absolute psychopath, but this one doesn't. It's made for kids and it's got a kid in it, and that's where it all goes wrong for me. But there are rainbows as well.
the little girl was a character from Frank Miller's script, so it was his idea, because this is all ideas that were kind of funneled over from RoboCop 2. So the rehab team were in number 2 originally in the script. Now things got basically condensed and thinned out, and all those ideas that were dropped for number 2 were put into this one. And then Fred Decker would adapt what he'd written, I think, and I think he'd worked closely with Miller, but he had to go by what the studio wanted. Was this, we are losing money, let's try and appeal to kids, because kids had seen RoboCop on TV or on video, and then playing the video games, and there's action figures, and there's a cartoon show. They seem to like, oh, kids like RoboCop, let's make it appeal to them. But the kids liked it because it was this, I suppose, sort of rite of passage to see an extremely violent movie. You do it, you sneak around a friend's house to watch it, or you borrow it off someone else, and that was the great experience of seeing something you're not allowed to see. And kids don't want to see, really, a tame version of RoboCop, because it takes away the fun of it.
Exactly, and also, I mean, RoboCop's an engaging character for kids in his own right, I suppose, up to a point, although the TV show wasn't hugely popular. But, I mean, there are ways to do it, I guess, and Fred Decker, you'd think, would be one of the men to do it, because it's kind of... Monster Squad is... I can't remember which came first, Monster Squad or Night of the Creeps. Fred Decker, the director's two other movies.
Yeah, Night of the Creeps came first.
Night of the Creeps was first. But I mean, neither of them were popular, but they're both really good. And Monster Squad is, in a way, a kind of a dry run for a movie like this. It's effectively about a big monster and a small child, sort of forming some sort of weird father-child relationship, kind of, I guess. But I mean, kids like RoboCop because he's violent, but they also like him because he's in the movie. And that's, if you're going to make RoboCop into a kid's character, you don't then make a movie which hardly has him in it and doesn't have him doing much when he is in it.
That's the big problem. He doesn't do much, I think it showed, Monster Squad showed that Fred Decker could handle that balance of horror, or this sort of that R rating, and then with a PG, so he could straddle that quite well to create a PG-13 movie that would have pleased the studio, but also provide enough for the fans. But also, ultimately, it didn't appease the adults who wanted to see RoboCop again. And the film did okay money. I mean, it costs 22 million. It made 47 million worldwide, despite its kind of staggered release dates, and was extremely popular in Japan.
Yeah, I can see that. I very much see that.
So it wasn't a huge loss for Orion, but it really it was a big blow to Fred Decker's career, because he had basically 3 bombs, essential 3 critical kind of failures as well. So despite Monster Squad being a good film, and I've not seen Night of the Creeps, but my friends do like that film.
Yeah, it's a good movie. I don't see much of a connection somehow, to be honest. I don't know where the guy who made RoboCop 3 came from. It's not the same person who made those first 2 movies, to my mind. But and because he does, I mean, we talked about this the other day, but the unusual thing about this movie is the extent to which Fred Decker takes complete responsibility for it. So it is his movie. Everything you see is his decision, his idea, what he wanted to do. So there's no one else to blame for it, and he really did take the blame too, didn't he?
Oh yeah, he still feels bad about how he did things, all the choices he made, and has nightmares about it, and it's just like this kind of depression that's kind of haunted him for years, and he's had to sort of, I think he kind of agrees with the complaints. He's completely honest with his feelings towards it, but people say it looks cheap, and he said, well, it doesn't look cheap. I don't think it does look cheap. I think it's just how the shots he's chosen are just very sort of, not particularly exciting. I mean, the action's not exciting, and I think if he got to go back to it, he would, direct a far better movie. I think he would.
Well, the action is the one thing he always seems to focus in on, isn't it? He's very, because he's an action guy, and one of the reasons he was excited about having Asian characters and an Asian aspect was getting. I mean, he seems to be a little bit confused at times between Japan and Hong Kong, but he really wanted to get a Hong Kong stunt team in, didn't he, to do particularly the big finale battle between RoboCop and the Robo Ninja. And I mean, even though he couldn't get access to that Hong Kong stunt team, he could have done something more than what we get, because it is. I mean, yeah, it's a boring movie, but when there is an action scene, the action is just dull as hell.
The first clip I saw of this film was this sequence where they break into the armory. It was on Movies, Games and Videos TV show. Do you remember that, Rob, on ITV?
Vaguely.
Right, yeah, so they just showed you RoboCop 3 is now out, and it was like, it said 15. I was like, oh, I can't see it. But I was sitting there for years waiting for it to come out, because the video game came out in late 91 for the Amiga, and then the following year you had it on the Super Nintendo and stuff, and there was comics out from Dark Horse Comics, like a 3-issue edition based on the film, and then there was like the figure where he's got a jetpack, but it wasn't called RoboCop 3, like I think it was just called RoboCop, and I was like, what's this jetpack from, you know, where's the film, you know. Yeah, it took forever. And I sort of, it was that sort of feeling though, even though I kind of enjoyed it, there was this sort of part of me was like, I don't know, didn't want to admit that it was bad, you know. It just didn't want it. You didn't want to sort of admit to that and, you know, be disappointed. But there was a sense that, you know, after you watched it, you didn't really feel compelled that much to go back to it and just, well, let's put RoboCop 1 on. You know?
Yeah, bad and derivative as well. I mean, everything feels like it's been borrowed from somewhere else. Like the scene we've just had with the little girl hacking Ed to an eye. I mean, that I don't believe that scene would have existed without Terminator 2 coming the year before or a couple of years before. And you know, everything seems to be lifted from something else. Good actors though. There's a great cast in this movie. I mean, you've got Stephen Root and CCH Pounder.
Yeah,
they're, you know, having a scene together. That's worth noting.
Yeah. Root, that was his kind of first big role in a feature film. He was very happy with. And the weird thing is, despite, you know, the outcome of this film, everyone involved in the production had a really good time making it. So it's
often the way, isn't it?
Yeah. The films that were a nightmare to make, like RoboCop 1, turns out really good. You know.
Well, you got to ask you got to question that, haven't you? Because presumably a lot of the time movies turn out a little bit special because the crazy visionary in charge of them just forced or demanded everyone do something different, do something special. And if everyone's just happy and getting along, it's a bit worrying in a way.
What do you think of the look of the film? Because this takes on the director of photography John Carpenter worked with for a number of movies.
Yeah.
Is it Gary Gibby or Gary Gibb? Sadly,
Kibbe, I think
Gibby.
it is.
Yeah, he sadly passed away, I think, a year or two ago. But there's moments in the film where, I mean, the whole film's consistent with its look. There's no kind of dodgy photography. I mean, he's a, you know, proper workman-like DP, and but I do get a sense that the imagery looked kind of flat throughout compared to the sort of dynamic look of number 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's strange, isn't it? Because Fred Decker talks a lot about this, that he loves the look of Prince of Darkness and They Live, and that era of, because Kibbe was the go-to cinematographer for John Carpenter for like the sort of mid part of his career. I want
Dean
to say.
Cundy moved on to like Spielberg and Zemeckis, you know.
Yeah. And I love John Carpenter. He's one of my favourite filmmakers. Prince of Darkness is one of my favourite genre films, but it's not a look that suits a RoboCop movie to my mind. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's, you know, that's like ultra realism, like sort of gritty New York type. You know, that's what I think. Whereas RoboCop is a bit more fantastical, a bit more. You know, it doesn't. I know it's meant to be set in a place in Detroit, and obviously it's filmed, like all of the RoboCop movies, it's filmed in some different random city. But I don't know. I know what you mean. I'm not so much upset that it looks flat. It just doesn't look right to me. It looks too generic, I suppose. It looks. You know, I like the way it looks, but it's generic.
Good TV movie in places.
Yeah. There's a lot of TV movie.
You're saying good cast. We've got some great little cameos here. You know. You know. How would he move?
mean, little moments like this, I'd forgotten completely. But this is a fantastic. And what's his name? It's Jeff Garland, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, his reaction is just brilliant. Yeah, I mean, and that guy is in.
It's in the Pirates
I
of
only
the Caribbean.
clicked when I. Yeah, he's in Pirates of the Caribbean, isn't he? He's the. Yeah.
And also you got Shane Black having a small role in this, and
Yeah.
and then it's great, shot they push in on Nancy Allen.
I fucking love this shot, and I love Nancy Allen's face because you're like, what? How badass is she going to be when she pulls that paper back? But no, she's blowing a bubble and looking really chilled out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you think she's got better hair in this one compared to number 2?
Yeah, yeah. Although she's now looks exactly like a friend of mine, which is a bit freaky. I couldn't get to the bottom of the story with regard to Nancy Allen's coming back here. She obviously wanted to do it, but she'd said that or the general like rumor or opinion is that she was absolutely refused to come back unless she was killed off, unless the character was killed off. But then you hear people who were actually present at the initial meeting with her saying that she was furious at the idea of being killed off.
There's two sides to that, yeah, because I'd always heard that obviously she had a bad experience in number 2 dealing with Irvin Kershner, how her role was scaled back. The communication between him and her wasn't great. So she was kind of reluctant to come back for a third one. And this was kind of happening, filming-wise, quite quickly after number 2. But then she said she agreed to do it because she had an honour to sort of continue with it and finish up the franchise and not be, have someone else come in and replace her. But she was surprised they were going to kill her off because the other side of the story is that when he returned, if they did kill her off. So yeah, it's kind of I don't know, difference of opinion on that. If it's from her mouth recently, well, for the Shout Factory release, she said, "Oh, I'm going to get killed off." So, but she didn't. I think she said she had a better time on this number 2, but it didn't feel like anything special. Just doing the job and then goes home.
Yeah, because there's confusion around a couple of details as well, like whether she wanted to come back as a female RoboCop in the last act, or whether she just refused to do it. That's another one that I've found differing opinions on.
Yeah, there's different ideas that are thrown around about potentially having her become a RoboCop essentially, but I don't think she was too keen to wear any sort of outfit, and because she's seen Peter and now Robert Burke, suffer through that. Oh, the guy they crashed into is the guy from is it Frankenhooker?
Oh, is it?
Yeah. He obviously his girlfriend gets killed and he resurrects over all his body parts and stuff. I do like this shot here though, when it cuts into Robo, just of his visor, and you see the lights coming off the metal, bouncing off it.
Yeah.
It's quite a cool moment. And you see a reflection. That's a good shot,
I don't know. I mean, it doesn't feel like anyone's quite invested. When I watched this scene earlier the other day, it seems like the stunt team, no one was quite invested in anything that was happening in this movie. No one really seemed to give it a little bit of an extra push. And I noticed the other day when I was watching it, that just looks like such a staged scene, that Trans Am upside down and the car kind of, and it's just fraught with questions. Why didn't the car behind carry on? It's hardly damaged. Well, I don't know.
It's also the rhythm of the editing and how the action is executed, because it doesn't really have. It shows you an action scene, but it's edited in a somewhat pedestrian way. It doesn't really get you excited. But it's like it feels very much like they've just done the storyboards, then copied them, and then it doesn't seem there's been much sort of creative spark on the day to say, oh, let's do this, let's put the camera here, let's have it, have it kind of Dutched angle slightly.
And it's probably that enthuses everyone on set as well. It's almost like a dry run. It's almost like a filmed rehearsal. It's not that bad at all, but little moments like that as well. I loved it. I do like all the push-in shots that Fred Decker's always talking about in this.
Yeah.
And that one is brilliant on Lewis when she just goes splatterpunks. Whoever came up with that name needs shooting. It made me cringe back then, and it makes me cringe now every time someone says splatterpunks.
I think it was a name of a book or something like that they'd taken it from, I think.
Really?
The splatterpunks, I think one of them takes on the look of one of the punks in the disco in RoboCop 1. When he goes down the stairs, you see the POV, you see a guy with spiky hair, and you see him in a moment when he's like, they try to set him on fire, and the other guy looks a bit like Hulk Hogan, which is very strange. I don't think Shane Black's character gets killed, does he? But he doesn't appear in the rest of the movie. He just kind of turns up for this kind of night shoot. Because I know Fred Decker had wished he'd wrangled Shane a bit more to help him with the script.
Yeah, exactly. I think he was busy doing other things, wasn't he? That's why he didn't write the script or appear more.
Yeah. So I know he'd written The Last Boy Scout, but that was... Tony Scott was doing that, and that was 91. Maybe around that time he was just kind of too busy or doing other things, but...
Well, the reason they normally give is that he was busy, or that Fred Decker gives it, is that he was busy on Long Kiss Goodnight. But that was a few years off.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the script had been around for a while.
That's
but
like 95, 96, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But it did take a while getting made. I did read something about troubles on the set of Last Action Hero and him potentially being, having to be on hand to do rewrites and so on. Maybe it's just that Shane Black his star was on the rise then, and a PG-13 RoboCop sequel probably wasn't what he wanted to do. It's interesting that Fred, that it was, because I'd initially assumed that Fred Decker was just kind of hanging on to Shane Black's coattails, frankly, his mates. They're old college buddies and like best friends, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they've done a bit of writing together. But I think it was the head of Orion, one of the heads of Orion, Michelle Monahan or something, actually wanted Fred Decker to do the writing because she loved what he'd been doing on Tales from the Crypt, which Orion were producing for HBO. So it sounds like Shane Black was almost an afterthought, and he didn't pan out anyway.
This is always quite amusing because when the car drives off the parking lot, the car's sort of...
The way it lands.
The way it lands, because it's kind of tilted, like it's going to land like for the engine first, but it sort of lands just perfectly on its four wheels, It's like if you drop a cat,
It is. I love this introduction. It is absolutely hilarious. There is no point in anything we've just seen. There's no advantage to him doing that over just driving up, frankly, is there?
That's right.
And there's no advantage to him shooting a hole in his roof.
No.
This is another one of the problems with this movie. This is where RoboCop starts. The first time we see him, he smashes his police radio for no good reason other than to be like, I'm badass rogue cop now. But why? Why is he badass rogue cop? What that hasn't been established. That's not how the last movie ended.
Well, it's supposed to establish that he's supposed to pull back, but because Lewis is in trouble. He's gonna,
but he doesn't ignore what he's told and do it anyway. He smashes the radio. That doesn't achieve anything. Why would RoboCop want to smash the radio? Why would he do it even if he wanted to? And why does he not use his door to get out of the car? Why does he drive it off the roof of the car? It's all just really silly intro drama stuff, which I'm all for. It's great, makes it entertaining, but it is rubbish.
Do you need to notice that shot there in RoboCop when the camera kind of pushes in on him, the focus goes out on his mouth? It's always out of focus.
Yeah. You mentioned that in your retrospective.
Where's the focus puller on the day? He must have been like eyes glazed over. See, again, you'd think execution-wise, this should be an exciting scene because they're going to set him on fire, he's going to chase after them, smash through the glass. But he just walks towards them slowly. Then they shoot it in slow-mo as he smashes through the glass. It's all just very cumbersome.
Yeah, and it's not playing to RoboCop's strengths either. He just stands there letting it happen, which, is just lazy, crappy filmmaking. But it doesn't play to his strengths because you're constantly reminded in this movie, I find, which you're not in the first, just how limited he is in terms of, he can't move quickly. Like, if you're going to have a scene like that where someone throws a firebomb at them, the person having the firebomb thrown at them is going to have to move quickly. To try, they're instinctively going to try and get out of the way, or they're going to try and defend themselves and block it, and then they're going to try and pursue the people who've run off on foot. And these are all things that RoboCop can't do because he can't move that quickly. It just highlights that all the time.
Yeah. Again, you see RoboCop walk up to Anne Lewis and his mouth's out of focus. It's very strange. The idea was supposed to be, I think, originally that he was set on fire and it damaged his skin, and that's why his face looks different when they take the helmet off.
Right, yeah.
But this one's supposed to be showing, again, like part of his humanity, and he has to make a choice between helping the people or, people that own him. So that was, I suppose he kind of has a more of a moral decision in this one. In number 2, it's just like RoboCop has to fight bad guys, So there's a little bit more of a, a bit more of a heart to this one. But do you want that from RoboCop?
Well, exactly. I mean, you've got here the perfect example of the 3 stages of a movie that gets sequelized that probably shouldn't have sequels and doesn't. I mean, I can't remember if we discussed this in the last movie, but they get away with the fact that RoboCop's story is all done and dusted.
Yes.
By kind of doing the same thing and kind of doing it more and kind of introducing a few wild elements, but it's ultimately fairly similar. And then the third one, they can't keep doing that, so they go completely left. They do something totally different, totally left field. And that's such a common arc with, like, I don't know, Jaws, the Jaws movies.
Oh, right.
Say.
Yeah.
It's basically exactly the same arc that Jaws has.
Yes.
It's, great first movie. Then the second one, they kind of luck into it being okay by doing a couple of things a bit differently, but not really. And then third one, they've got to change tack totally, and that's where you realise just how limited the character is, or how limited the ideas the filmmakers have are.
Yes, this one deals with the threat of the Japanese taking over. Because there was a bunch of movies around that sort of late 80s, early 90s, where like things like Black Rain, where it was kind of commenting on the Japanese, because I think the American kind of manufacturing arms and things like that were kind of afraid of the Japanese taking over because they were building superior products and people, and so they were kind of spooked by that. So this kind of again deals with the Japanese kind of taking over, and obviously they have taken it. They've taken over ACP. They've invested in it, haven't they? Or they're maybe just trying to, because they've got to complete Delta City in time. To be honest, I'd rather live in Delta City than the slums of Detroit. It looks far better. I do love, though, even it's completely different design, but I do love this James Bond like set they've built for OCP. Even though it's got this kind of weird rocks like built into it. It's like a brutalism in it. It's like a brutal design.
Well, it's also very I don't know if it's deliberate, but it reminds me slightly of I can't remember the architect, but there was in Die Hard there are allusions to this sort of corporate takeover by Japan, because obviously
that's right,
Nakatomi is Japanese, but they the main set where the hostages are kept in Die Hard, there's like a big waterfall rock feature type thing, which is apparently based on an actual thing that some Japanese corporate entity had constructed, and it's very similar to the one here in a way. This is obviously a much smaller scale thing, but I'm sure I noticed there is actually a waterfall involved in that big rock thing somewhere as well. So it's, yeah, like you say, it's very much playing into that corporate takeover fear. And there's a model as well in the background here as well, which just as there is in the Nakatomi building.
Well, because obviously throughout, I mean, the first one had the model of Delta City. I don't think the second one included it, what they wanted to build.
We should mention these two villains here, because they are the two best things in this movie, without a shadow of a doubt.
As soon as you got, like Rip Torn again, we were saying very early on, like he chews up the dialogue and overacts, and you've got John Castle as McDaggett, who's you could say sort of Poundland Steve Martin, but it looks like Steve Martin. You stupid slag. He's got some of the best lines, isn't he?
That line is just hilarious, isn't it? Yeah.
And he calls everyone chum, doesn't he?
Yes. They're in two completely different movies, though, those two. I mean, Castle could have been in the first movie without, altering much about his performance or his personality or anything.
No.
Rip Torn thinks he's in a cartoon, which is to the movie's detriment if you're taking it seriously, but is hugely advantageous to those of us who aren't.
Yeah. So this is essentially a Terminator, isn't it? They've created.
Yeah.
he opened his eyes and just added a sound effect in. I think there should have been a little bit more to his introduction. You know what I mean? Like, I suppose it's supposed to play with the idea that we don't know he's a Terminator-like machine. But I don't know. Maybe something a little bit more interesting than that.
Yeah, you could say that about pretty much every scene. It could have been a little bit more. And when the camera's tracking across the room, it's all kinds of exciting things happening right now.
Yeah. Well, that's that's what the first one did, didn't it?
It's just the obligatory copying the scene from the first movie.
Well, this location is the Coca-Cola head office, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
A bit of CG work there on the computer. So what do you think of Robert John Burke as RoboCop?
I think he's fine. I mean, it's a poison chalice, isn't it? You can't win, really. But he's not. He doesn't bother me. He's not. Weirdly, the biggest problem I have is, like you, I think, with his voice.
Yeah, they were supposed to work on it, but they didn't do anything to it. Really,
just let us adapt. And likewise, people can handle an actor changing, from movie to movie. We've shown them many times in Hollywood that we can deal with that. Often it's what they do to try and conceal that change that creates the problem, and I think that's what they were doing with the voice. I guess anyway. I assume that's why they've sort of modulated and filtered that voice so much.
Because he does have a passing resemblance to Peter Weller, so you don't.
Yeah, he really does.
And because Robert was in Tombstone. He was in Dust Devil. That was a kind of interesting film. He did quite a lot of stuff. I mean, he has like cameos in TV shows. I mean, he had like Sex and the City or something he was in. But he had a good time playing this, and he knew that he couldn't, be better than Peter Weller, but he would just make sure that he does a good enough job to, make it convincing, because he gets all the movements right. He's really good with the movements he had done.
Yeah, mostly. There are some moments I remember thinking the other day that... Ooh.
He does spend a lot of time with his arms out like this, like he's put deodorant on, he's waiting for it to dry, So he's always about to fly away or something, flap his arms.
He's practicing for later. I get the impression that he might not have done quite the amount of research and work building the physicality that Peter Weller did, because it doesn't seem quite as consistent.
Is it Moni Akeem who trained Peter? He trained Robert as well. Maybe they just had less time.
I wouldn't be at all surprised if they met for an afternoon, and then we can tick that box. We can say that we got him into. I don't know, but there's a point. I can't remember where it is. There's a point in the movie where he's walking and he does like a couple of turns, and there's no sort of synergy in the way that he's moving his. But Peter Weller kind of moved his upper body first, and then the lower body, or the other way around. I forget now. But it's just he just kind of walks like a generic robot a little bit at times. But on the whole, yeah, I think he does a fine job.
Because he had to wear the suit from number 2. Now he sprayed it, and because Robert's taller than Peter, they had to make adjustments, so he was quite uncomfortable. I think it's like a bigger neck piece. But unfortunately, when you see these films in high definition, we'll be getting closer and closer to the original 35mm look. You start seeing the sort of the black velvet material that's near his neckline, near his shoulders, and when his arm gets cut off, you can actually see just his arm sticking out, just with black material on. It's quite, yes.
I didn't notice.
Oh man, you see it, because we're also used to watching these on VHS, where it kind of the low resolution hides a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of people sort of still favour the old resolution, because it hides a lot of the problems. But because we're going, you see it on TV, you can rewind stuff, go back, pause, zoom in. You can see all the issues, but if you saw it projected for the first time, you probably wouldn't notice.
Sorry, no, I was just going to mention I love that goony guy, her assistant, and he comes up behind. I made a note of this in my notes. Do you want me to install the neuro barrier, Doctor? That line made me laugh out loud the way he delivers it.
This film does have some good transitions, though, from one scene to another. When she gets the hammer out and she smashes the chip, and it cuts to like a newspaper going across the screen as it pans
There's
up.
a nice, but is it still like there's a dissolve with it, and the is it like dominoes on a table or something, and it dissolves to something. There's figures in the same positions.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's I wonder if you had time, because that's the kind of thing you'd come up in pre-production maybe and have a little storyboard for. So maybe there was more time beforehand than during filming or something.
Check it out. I do like the new OCP sort of stooge, as it were. What's the gentleman's name? He was in things like Cabin in the Woods and Saving Mr. Banks.
Not the guy who was just in hassling
Fleck.
The Doctor. Is he the guy?
Bradley Whitford.
That's him. Yeah. I noticed a weird bit of TV trivia. I've always got a weird bit of weird TV trivia I've noticed with these movies. But in this, you have the two of the main villains. But do you watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
I've seen bits of it.
Are you familiar with Brooklyn Nine-Nine? I'm a big fan of Brooklyn Nine-Nine in my house. And the two main characters, well, two of the main characters, Jake Peralta and his sidekick, whose name I've forgotten now. Both their dads play two of the main villains in this, because Stephen Root plays one guy's dad, and the one you just mentioned plays the other guy's dad. So there's a bit of completely pointless TV trivia for this week.
Sadly, Bradley's not in Murder, She Wrote.
No, but the newsreader guy is, so we've got that.
We've still got that crossover.
And there's no one from Coronation Street in this one. I did check.
Oh, I always kind of knew this bit even as a kid, when she goes, "Do you want your body armor?" She said, "No, I'm off duty." It's like, "Well, you're gonna die."
Again, I laughed out loud the other day when she said this is actually, because I'd forgotten she got killed when I watched it the other day, and as soon as she said that, I remembered.
I'm fine, Anne. Thank you for asking.
That voice is just so strange, isn't it?
Yeah, because Robert would provide his voice for two little lines for RoboCop versus the Terminator on the Sega Mega Drive. And we hear
really?
RoboCop just say, "Excellent," and he just goes, "Rah!" and he screams, when he gets killed. That was it. But he sounds, just saying "excellent" in that game sounds far better than anything in this. And it's bizarre. Very bizarre.
Here we go with all the religious symbolism.
Yeah. RoboCop's going to go into his church, which was apparently painted white, and the production designer had the opportunity to actually just give it a different colour, to make it more visually interesting.
Oh wow! Yeah, now you mention it, that it looks odd with stained glass, that sort of Farrow and Ball deep red.
Yeah. But it just kind of looks better on film, doesn't it? You've got a bit more of just makes the image look a bit more dynamic, I think.
That shot we just saw of RoboCop taking his gun out of his leg is, I think, stolen for the movie that I've my background is today is Bangladeshi RoboCop and the character Robot Ninja. And Bangladeshi RoboCop actually steals some shots from this movie and the previous ones, including that. God, it really is going to be the steps of a church. What is it? Is it The Godfather that's got the famous killing on the steps of the church?
Number 3, isn't it? Where Sofia Coppola is shot, isn't she? And then Al Pacino just lets out the most epic scream, which is kind of muted, and suddenly the audio comes in louder. It's really cleverly done. I think it's the best scene in the movie.
Hang on, was that before this or after this, though?
That was before. Godfather 3 is 1990.
Is it?
Yeah. Many years after number 2, wasn't it?
I thought for a moment there was some vague possibility that Francis Ford Coppola was ripping off RoboCop 3.
That'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
There's some old gangster, there's some like 1930s gangster movie as well where the same thing happens.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it seems kind of a visual kind of design that seems to be quite easy to sort of do. You know what I mean? And someone just to, I don't think subconsciously kind of steal it. I think it seems a natural thing.
Yeah,
if you can have a shootout near a church, See her arm there on the left? She's already been shot. It's a continuity gap.
Ah, I missed that. There's also really strikingly weird blocking when RoboCop comes out of the building and gets his gun out and then stands behind the unarmed, undefended woman.
Yeah, yeah.
So it just looks completely wrong. Yeah, again, action scene, but completely pointless. Really, there's no excitement or energy to it at all. It's just a static shootout.
Yeah, it's you could have had RoboCop just sort of, going back in the building and shooting through the glass or something, or I don't know, just grabbing something to throw at them, But then he's restricted by his commands, isn't he? Which is a bit annoying. You think his OS would have been avoided all that by that point because he's already, I don't know, he had somewhat free will. It felt like, didn't it?
Well, he's got his free will to smash up radios and ignore instructions and orders and shoot the hell out of his car for the sake of it.
Because the rehab, they're basically Nazis, aren't they? Because we've already had a scene earlier on where everyone's been taken away. It feels like it's very much like the Jewish being taken away to the camps, and I think Fred Decker, when you see the camera sort of pull back as she's calling out for her parents, is very much Empire of a Dream. No, what's the one with Christian Bale?
Empire of the Sun.
Empire of the Sun.
And what's this from? I mean, this has got to be from something. Trials of Joan of Arc, maybe some sort of
Ninja Turtles 2, maybe. But yeah, this is again not a great how it's shot. For her death, it feels a bit I don't know, underplayed and not quite as dramatic, because RoboCop's reaction should be a little bit more angry, because he's at this point he's supposed to be Murphy. He's not RoboCop.
We've already established the fact that he's prepared to destroy police equipment and disobey orders in order to defend his best bud.
Yeah.
And now she's finally been killed. Yeah, there's just no obvious discernible reaction.
Yeah, he should be. Should let out a big scream or something, or just anger, like in RoboCop 1, where he goes back to his home and then he gets all frustrated and goes smashes that TV. And there's none of that here. RoboCop should be furious. What's happened? Punch the kid.
And yeah, the kid's still in it, by the way.
Should have used her as a human shield.
Decker said somewhere that the reason, I don't know if it's the reason the child's in it, but the reason the child is Japanese, or at least mixed race, is because he didn't want to depict, he didn't want all the Japanese people to be in the movie to be depicted as evil. She
was supposed to be Japanese in the script.
Fully Japanese. Yeah.
That's why she's good at technology and stuff,
He also wanted her to be younger, didn't he? Which baffles me completely. He thinks that's one of the major problems with the movie, why people didn't engage with it, because the child's too old.
I do like the bit in the moment where she goes, "Oh, rats!" and he looks down, there's loads of them, and just goes, 1 or 2. I always find that bit amusing.
I feel like I know him much better than I do that guy. I went through his filmography, and there's no major character.
Theatrical actor, but he did a lot of TV.
He's done a lot. He's been in every single British mystery or detective show ever. He's guest starred in all of them.
Oh, right.
That's probably why he's more familiar than.
Has he been in Minder or? What else?
He's in Midsummer Murders.
Oh,
we can't do Murder, She Wrote, but we can do its British cousin.
There we go. It's like that moment in Rush Hour 2 where they go in the sewers and they have to escape. There's rats everywhere. And Chris Tucker's like, "Look at that rat!" It's just too big.
Oh, yeah, so this is where he starts malfunctioning, isn't it?
Yeah, and he spends maybe about next act of the movie just lying down. Which is, yay, exciting RoboCop stuff,
I don't know what it is about these people, but it's for all the problems the movie has. What probably bugs me the most, what I least like about it, is just spending time with these people. I don't know why. I'm just not interested in them. And like CCH Pounder and Stephen Root are fantastic actors. I love them both.
Yeah, yeah.
But this is all just kind of time wasting.
Stephen Root is just so good in Office Space, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Miss Deeply.
He's got a really small role in 24 as well, as like a really sinister, like bail bondsman or something like that, and he's absolutely terrifying.
I think he had to go pay for it himself to go see the film. I think he missed out on the premiere. I think it was. Yeah. Something of that nature. What's a new little bit they put in for RoboCop? He's got a, I don't know, USB memory input or something. What's a tracking device, isn't it?
Lucky she knows how to deal with all these robots.
Yeah, because she had a miniature of RoboCop means she knows everything. Sure, I don't know.
And that's how she can hack Ed 209 as well.
God, it must be pretty easy to hack Ed 209 then, you know. To make him loyal as a puppy.
That's something they didn't really do much with as well. I mean, if you're going to give her I can see the appeal in giving her an Ed 209 protector, but he's hardly in it.
Well, they should have deployed him for the battle in the streets, right? And then Ed 209's kind of defending them. Then he gets destroyed by the big tank, maybe. And then RoboCop comes in with a flying jetpack. At least you can kind of use Ed 209 a bit more, because everyone loves Ed 209 because he just looks so fucking cool.
Or if you want to do fan service, have an army of a dozen Ed 209s deployed against the goodies.
Yeah.
That she then remotely hacks, so in the middle of the fight, turns them on. That could be the turning point of the battle.
Because they should have had like the rebels of Detroit kind of then attacking OCP building, and they've got loads of Ed 209s to guard them, and then RoboCop takes them out and then flies up to the top. And then smashes through. It's just like this kind of... We're coming up with ideas, within a space of 30 seconds. You go, that's better. Let's do that.
Yeah, yeah. And also, I don't care, because my enjoyment of this movie, such as it is down to it being rubbish. But, like, what is RoboCop's arc here? It's just ridiculous. They could have actually found an arc to give him. They could have found something for him to do by having him start the movie questioning authority in a natural, logical state based on the conclusion of the last two movies.
Yes.
He's started to break his programming, but he's ultimately a loyal policeman. He's ultimately doing what he's told. And then he starts to maybe he starts by denying that order and going to save Lewis. He doesn't have to smash up his radio and crash his car off a building and shoot the roof out. Slowly starts it, and then eventually at the halfway mark, or even in the last act, turns and takes sides with the good guys. And then he's actually and then we believe his journey there, rather than it just being, well, he's a good guy, so he's got to be on the good guy's side.
Well, we discover that Stephen Root is like essentially a mole, or sells them out, right? So you could have had RoboCop the entire time pretending to be on OCP's side, and then he tricks them.
Yeah,
just simple things like that. I do like in this film when you see the CRT TVs, they're all widescreen. They're put like a plastic bit on top to make it look like it's the future, people. It's widescreen TVs. This is a good little shot. Sort of matte painting.
Yeah, what is that? Is that a matte painting?
I think it's a matte. Yeah. There is some CGI in the film. Obviously, the opening of Delta City, the promo at the beginning is CG, and you got the morphing tool, as it were, sort of developed with Willow, that will get used in T2 and Star Trek 6. It will get used in this. We see, that sort of morphing between Anne Lewis and his wife and the woman, the scientist who looks after him.
This is brilliant. This is genuinely brilliant.
This is great.
And again, it's the editing as well. Some of the editing is shonky, but this is just nailed.
It pulls up. That's what the comedy doesn't work in places, because Fred Decker is good at writing comedy. And this guy, is it Bruce? What's the gentleman's name?
Bruce Locke, I think.
Yeah, Bruce Locke. Yeah, I mean, he had no martial arts training, but he was like a model, I suppose. Done commercials, a few commercials. He had the physique, And but he did go on to do, I think, a Mortal Kombat TV show. I think it was.
Yes,
He's got loads of acting gigs. He's done quite well for himself. Because I think in his interview, he was like driving around LA, and it said like coming soon, RoboCop 2. He goes, "Oh, I'd love to be part of something like that." And then he goes and he gets a phone call a few months later. "Oh, we're doing RoboCop 3," and he's like, "You hadn't seen them." It's like, okay.
Decker says he just wanted someone who looked like the Japanese image of perfection.
Yeah.
They kind of nailed that, I guess. Really.
Yeah. I mean, that's why this film appealed to the Japanese, because you got that sort of connection there with the Japanese takeover, and you've got cyborgs, big robots, And I think maybe down to its rating as well, more kids could see it, and Japanese kids love all that stuff. Love is spit flack, when he always shouts at him.
Rip Torn with a moustache as well. That's what we were saying. I love Rip Torn. Are you a Larry Sanders fan, or
Larry Sanders?
That's what I most know him from
Right,
nowadays.
sorry, yeah, no, I Rip Torn I kind of knew from Men in Black as a kid, and Dodgeball. I think it was Dodgeball he was in. I can't remember.
Yeah,
there's a bunch of comedies, isn't he?
Yeah, I think that was basically a result of Larry Sanders, because he's the same character essentially in much of the movie. But back in the day, he was an absolute he remained an absolute wild card till his death, didn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, there are stories about this guy. My favourite is the one, and to this day nobody knows who's telling the truth, but he was meant to play the Jack Nicholson role in Easy Rider famously, and it was actually written for him. But during pre-production, he ended up in an argument with Dennis Hopper, and according to Hopper, Rip Torn pulled a knife on him and tried to stab him in the throat. And according to Rip Torn, it was the other way around. So nobody knows exactly what happened, but Dennis Hopper went on Letterman in the 80s or the 90s and told this story, and Torn sued him and won. So, but like waking up, he broke into a bank by accident as well. I mean, that's... He was so drunk that he thought a bank was his house and broke into it and went to sleep.
I think him and Dennis are both I think they've both got fiery tempers, haven't they? So.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Yeah. It's like the horror stories on Super Mario Brothers, where Dennis Hopper is just like losing his temper with the constant script changes. It's unprofessional and all this stuff. He's got to memorize it all, wasn't he? Now he's got to change it all. What I do like about this, though, we've got the return of Basil Poledouris to do the score. His original themes are back.
Do you? This is I don't know. This scene. This looks like. I mean, this is making me laugh. This vision, because it's such a cheesy kind of, here's the resistance underground type of thing. There's even a Christmas tree down in the corner.
People are walking everywhere aimlessly.
Really carefully everything's so perfectly choreographed.
Yeah.
And that music belongs for a scene like this, but one that I can take seriously.
And they got to try and fix RoboCop.
I mean, who is this guy? These are such one-dimensional. CCH Pounder is Resistance Woman. That's the extent of her bio. There's nothing else we learn about her or need to know about her, apparently.
Bertha, or lovely Bertha.
Apparently, she was based on a character from a Frank Miller comic book.
Yeah, I think most is kind of derived from other characters he's created. Dr. Lazarus. Has he also got superhero? Because later on she turns up and he goes, "There's a car approaching," or something like that. He says.
It's his spidey senses. I'm glad they went back to the original suit colour. Actually, I think, as far as I can tell, it's pretty much the original.
Yeah, it's pretty much kind of very similar. I don't mind the blue. You've got to give it a slightly different colour so they can put out another action figure.
Yeah.
Looks slightly different. So what do you think of the set design here for the changes they've made from the original one, where it's just kind of, he was just in behind fences, wasn't he, sitting on a chair? I don't mind the upgrade. I think that would naturally happen.
Yeah, I think it fits this movie better than that sort of ultra kind of basic reality. That I can really see that like mesh fencing and it all being done a bit on the cheap is how it would have been to begin with, and in that movie's world. But yeah, this is a nice set.
The first one's like they just opened up shop essentially at the police station. It's kind of quick, rough and ready. I think for number 2 they should have perhaps kind of had a few modifications to that, because this was essentially his home now.
Yeah, fridge and a telly and stuff like that would be good. There's some nice sort of, I suppose it's blocking really in this as well. You mentioning that set made me think about it, because Decker talks in his commentary about that scene, how proud he is of, not that scene, sorry, the earlier scene where bad guy meets RoboCop's minder woman and starts threatening her and stuff. He was really proud of the blocking and the cinematography and so on in that scene. And there's a lot of nice touches here. Some of it, like you say, most of it is really, really basic. But every now and again, there'll be a nice, like when Bruce Locke just came in to the scene here, nice little panning, tracking shot, and then the guy comes into vision from behind.
I do like the moment when he hits him in the jaw.
Yeah, how do they do that effect?
Well, it's just a puppet. That's animatronic. So the Robo-Teens created that. You got someone else's hand coming up and just adjusting the jaw.
So is the upper bit? So none of that is his real face.
None of that's his real face.
None of it. It is so convincing.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, this is like just after Total Recall, so he's by this point he's nailed the effect of creating a human face.
Yeah. I find that a lot more convincing than Total Recall, though. Total Recall's attempts. It's fun as well. It's a nicely creative little moment. It's self-controlled, and
as you were mentioning earlier about the dissolve.
Oh, there we go. That's it. Yeah.
I love the map. Just a squiggly line. He's got to try and figure that out.
You should have cut to someone slamming you can't cut to a table of dominoes and not have someone immediately slam one down and go, "Domino, motherfucker," or something along those lines. Yeah, there's a superpower, yeah.
I need the toilet. Where's his baby food?
Yeah.
That's what he needs. Keep his energy up. There's some good tracking stuff in this. There's as you're saying, there's got moments of like, that's well shot. That's well, designed sequence.
But
the problem being is just like not enough cameras maybe they're using, so to create sort of dynamic sequences or speed up the editing a little bit so you can get through things a bit quicker. It's all very sort of played out.
Yeah.
Quite slowly,
It's basic.
Yeah.
This is a basic bitch of a movie.
There's a fan edit which cuts about 15 minutes out to sort of speed up the film. I've never seen that. But.
I don't know this actress. Is she in anything? I can't even remember her name now.
What was her character name? I've forgotten. Oh, it's quite bad.
Oh, yeah, no,
it's Dr. Lazarus, isn't it? Right.
Dr. Lazarus, yeah, of course, because it's Dr. M. Lazarus, in fact.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a reference to something else, isn't it? Lazarus.
Yeah, I think it's the poet or the author who wrote the inscription on the bottom of the Statue of Liberty is called Emma Lazarus. And, of course, she wrote the whole Bring Me You're Tired and You're Hungry. So it's kind of, it feeds into the general concept and the theme of this movie with, the sort of socialist values.
I can't seem to find her. That's weird. It's not like in number 2 where that lady would take my name off it because she slept with Peter Weller. Peter Weller up to his old tricks. It's like a randy old dog, isn't he? There we go. Jill Hennessy. She's aged extremely well. She's a bit of a Lois Lane type character, isn't she? Well, she could fit Oh, she's done plenty of stuff, but mostly TV. TV actress.
Oh, so this must be CG, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it was CG. See, interesting because when they show the clips of RoboCop 1, it's a lot of POV from RoboCop's point of view. There's none of that in this, really, to a certain degree. With like when he's recording something, like he's looking like at Nico outside the church.
Doctor Who. It is Doctor Who.
Yeah. Down. Yeah, there's not much of his POV in this. There's only a few moments.
Do you know anyone else who was considered for the role for Peter Weller's replacement?
I know. I've not heard any other names brought up. On
the IMDb trivia page, it says Michael Dudikoff was offered it, but you never know if that's true, and I just can't see that somehow. I can't see how he'd fit in the suit or anything.
I know that weirdly Dudikoff trivia is like Kurt McKinney was had auditioned for American Ninja, and Dudikoff got it. But yeah, because obviously around this time Peter Weller was offered the job to be in David Cronenberg's Naked Lunch. He chose that. Kind of obviously probably didn't want to be in that suit again and be typecast, and wanted to sort of stretch his wings and do Naked Lunch, which is a weird film.
I love that movie.
But he did come in, and I think he came in and sort of apologised to Fred Decker that he wasn't going to take the part. And
yeah.
That was a story that came out later on, because in the 90s that was never common knowledge. It was just like he turned it down and did Naked Lunch, but it was good for him to come in and apologise.
Well, apparently, according to Decker anyway, he said he reckoned he wanted to do it, but it couldn't be fitted into his schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite a change of pace. It would have been going straight from David Cronenberg's Naked Lunch to this would have been eye-opening.
That's the real RoboCop 3 Naked Lunch, isn't it?
Revenge of the Mugwump. I can't see Michael Dudikoff doing this.
No, he doesn't have the right voice either.
No, that's a very good point, actually. Yeah,
you need even though he's got the chin, but But Robert Burke has a bit more of a wider jaw, which you need for that. And
you've just got to be fairly slight, haven't you, to fit in the suit? And
yeah. So I like how it's all underscored here by Basil. It's good. It's good music. I think his voice is kind of better here when he's, as they always do when RoboCop, they take the helmet off. His voice is more human. But it's once they put it on, his voice hasn't been modulated in the right way to fine tune it. I think that's what Robert said. He was disappointed they hadn't done more work on his voice.
Doesn't make an awful... I haven't thought about that before, but it doesn't make an awful lot of sense that his voice changes when he takes his helmet off, considering he doesn't have anything over his mouth.
Yeah.
Again, they absolutely nailed that, the blend from skin to prosthetic to helmet.
Oh, for sure.
Maybe that's just an easier effect to create than we realise, and that's why it always looks so good in these movies. Although they're not going anywhere near as close to it as they do in the first one.
No, they're not. But I think the movements he's got here is all pretty good. Still being that sort of robotic.
It's more just hanging around, though, isn't it? It's just nothing's happening.
Nothing's happening. Yeah, it's all a lot of just sort of plodding along, which is for the middle act. You want something kind of exciting happening, and you've got the ninja robot just again. Walks in, steals a map, and then the guy's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And then he just cuts the sign.
This guy should have had more to do. I think give him a MacGuffin to search for or something.
Wasn't he in like one of the other films? I'm sure he played another part in number 2. I can't remember. Maybe I'm thinking of someone else. But he does look like is it Tom Noonan? For number 2, he does look like him. A Poundland version, another Poundland.
I mean, they could have made something. Obviously, you can almost see them sort of saying, "Right, we need to make something interesting out of this scene. We'll have him slice through the sign, and it'll fall over." There we go. And that isn't interesting.
If it was an R-rated film, he'd just like impale him, then look and take them out. You know what I mean? I think that's the frustration the filmmakers had, because of Patrick Crowley, who he obviously worked on number 2. He got, John Davidson was like, I can't do another RoboCop film, so he went up to producer role, and he said they struggled to really create an action scene where you couldn't be that aggressive. Because when you've got squibs in this, you don't see the squibs go off like when Anne Lewis was shot. He fires, but then it cuts to her already kind of shot. You don't see the squibs go off; they've already gone off. You know what I mean? So kind of, again, very careful thought about fit within the rating system of the MPAA.
Clever filmmakers find clever solutions.
Because I always thought they'd made it violent and then cut it all way back. I was like, it's got to be a hard R-rated version of number 3. It just wasn't. The script, as Guy had sent me the script to RoboCop 3, and I kind of went through most of it, and I was like, oh yeah, even in the script, it's, there's nothing there to sort of give you an impression that that was more violent.
How have they got all this gear? How did they get his chair and stuff here then?
Well, she bought it over in the...
Did they do they raided the police station,
yeah, bought it with the van, didn't they? Come on, Rob, keep up. You look confused.
Presumably they just kind of walked out with it all and no one...
I do like how the jetpack comes off. It's like, kink, like, ejects itself. Unfinished business. That's a good turn.
I don't know. I don't buy that turn, actually.
No.
I'm giving that turn a 5 out of 10.
And he walks off and you see his legs are all wobbly. Never film RoboCop's bum, all right? You can't film it. You'll love this bit. You got a RoboCop? You got a ghost cop? A vampire cop. Oh, that's good. This is also a good line as well. Yes. He's like... See, his voice is different, isn't it? When he's got the helmet on. You may want to call the fire department.
That gun on his arm as well. Do you
love it.
Later on when he gets his arm chopped off, but somehow in a way that allows him to slot the gun straight onto the dismembered limb.
Well, maybe it's just like a screw on. You know what I mean? Just goes, scum. I mean, this set I feel is quite barren, doesn't it? It's just like it's very simple set dressing. I think we've got some pencils in a little cup there. We've
got 3 pieces of paper stuck to the wall.
Take that map out.
There's a chalkboard over there as well. It doubtless has something hilarious written on it. Mind you, it's like when you watch old detective shows, I quite like Kojak. And it's really striking how barren all the police station sets are in those shows, and they're all painted just like these as well.
Once you notice it, you can't avoid it. When you see other films where the set dressing's so minimal, you're just like, oh god, it really symbolises how cheap it is.
Yeah.
Invasion USA, when you see, like, that hotel and they're doing a drug deal and the room is so empty, there's like a couple of phones on the table. You know what I mean?
Steady on, Ollie. We don't want to start.
This is classic canon, though. You know what I mean? With the
bit of respect, if you don't mind.
How dare you? I like how McDaggett's got the Colt gun, which was the original gun they were going to use for RoboCop. It ended up being too small.
Oh, really? I hadn't noticed that. Now, is it throughout the commentary? I always thought this actor was called Mako. And throughout the commentary, he's referred to as Marco or Mako.
I always thought it was Mako.
Yeah.
I think people pronounce it slightly different. If you pronounce it wrong in some people's eyes, you get a bit of a drubbing.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things that, like, obviously, I mean, as you must know from making YouTube videos, every now and again I'll suddenly think, hang on a minute, I should check how that name's actually pronounced, because I've been saying it this way in my head for 20 years.
Yeah.
And it often ends up being completely different. Because, unless if you only talk to people who share in the misconception, then you're never going to realise.
Yeah. Also, I like this boat where Stephen Root comes through the door. It's like, use a little shadow to hide him. You think, I can still see him.
Who could that possibly be? It's bound to be CCH Pounder.
It's like how people would say Masters of the Universe. It would be Masters of the Universe or Masters of the Universe, even though there's no R between the A and the S.
Yeah, well, that's a different pronunciation thing, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
That just depends whether you speak
But if you're saying
correctly or
Mako
not.
and Marco...
Well, that's a name. The way he pronounces it is the way his name... I've got a real bee in my bonnet about pronouncing people's names as correctly as possible. I hate it when I get it wrong, and I get it wrong a lot.
You have to watch interviews, really. Get the host to say it.
Exactly,
That's
yeah.
how you say it. Right.
Yeah.
Because I've been called out a number of times. People just get so bent out of shape. I'm like, Christ almighty, mate.
It's a basic respect type thing, though, I think. The least you can do is try and pronounce someone's name properly.
Well, I try to. That girl looked way too old to be a teenager. Love this bit. And the guy in the background. Look at the guy in the background. He's frozen like this. It was great.
There are a lot of these little
The elevator door sticking. That's good.
little bits of fabric, little bits of world building that are really good.
Oh, this bit's stupid though. The guy goes to shoot him and he fires it and it's hanging in the air and he goes, "Don't."
This is the second time he's refused to open a door and instead just shot a hole in it.
Yes, that's like a cartoon, isn't it? I love how RoboCop looks confused now. He's like, "It's you." He's like, "You guys just having sex? What's going on here?"
The whole movie would have been over then and there if it weren't for Stephen Root surprising RoboCop.
Yeah, that's a good stunt.
That was very fortunate. This makes me laugh as well.
Well, he gets the car, doesn't he? "What's your problem, sucker?" He's like, "Excuse me, officer." He's like, he picks up the tackiest car, doesn't he? Isn't there? There's a film called "What's Your Problem, Sucker," isn't there?
I'm going to get you, sucker.
I'm gonna get you, sucker.
gonna
That's
get
it.
you, sucker.
Yeah. The trailer for that film is so good. Again, you got another action sequence where it's just they shoot. You think on the page this would be quite an exciting chase
Yeah.
because they're shooting at a car blowing up, it caught fire, and it's just a bit.
I actually made a note of how boring this scene is compared to what it could and should be. Yeah.
Maybe it's like
They should be making more of the fact that he's driving a pimpmobile as well, frankly. There should be some sort of funny... Maybe he accidentally turns the hydraulic suspension on and it starts bouncing. Or something.
yeah, because all they do is just acknowledge that it's got some fluffy dice, I think, yeah, if you could go back to this, you've got all the rushes and re-edit it, you could create a far more dynamic edit with this, just to get the pace up a bit. And
yeah. Oh, yeah, I do like this weapon, actually.
that's great, isn't it?
I don't know quite how it's having that effect on that car, but I like it.
This film's competition in November of '93, it was up against Look Who's Talking Now, the Remains of the Day, and what was the other ones up against? Flesh and Bone.
Oh.
No. So you'd think this, okay, the competition is actually not that bad for that week of release, but I think you still had Jurassic Park playing, and it was like number 25 in the charts even after like 6 months, but I think if this film had come out in 92, it probably wouldn't seem so somewhat sort of dated in a way, maybe, because most people commented on about like the visual effects, like Jurassic Park was kind of out and T2 had come out, so it felt a bit like behind, but just because if you saw it in the UK come summer of 94, it would look a bit clunky compared to what we just seen, at the cinema. In terms of big special effects movie, because it's not a cheap movie in terms of like the budget wise, it's still a strong budget, but yeah. Because if you watch the UK trailer for this, it was really kind of fast editing, loads of explosions. You think, oh wow, this looks great. And when you do watch it, and what we've commented on in terms of the action sequences and how they're set up and how they're edited, it's very cumbersome.
I don't think it helped that RoboCop 2 was really badly received at the time as well. My theory with movie series like these is the box office tends to reflect the quality of the previous movie more than that movie itself.
Diminishing returns, isn't it?
Yeah. I think people go... It's like the Pirates... If you look at Pirates of the Caribbean, it's like the first sequel was absolutely massive because everyone loved the original one.
Yeah,
so they went to see it despite the reviews being shit. And then the one after, not so much. And I suspect that if this had followed... If there were no RoboCop 2, this might have had a completely different experience at the box office.
Yeah, or this was RoboCop 2, you're implying.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Because it's, like, fine, the reviews were bad, but I don't think most people pay much attention to reviews, really.
Well, yeah, I mean, people...
They certainly don't pay attention to reviews of Reagan, looking at the disparate scores between Rotten Tomatoes viewers and critics.
Yeah. But people tend to watch a review, especially in the world of YouTube, like after they've seen it.
Exactly, yeah.
At the time, though, they would have to rely on the newspapers, film magazines, and what was on TV, like Siskel and Ebert, or over here in Barry Norman, and the Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel and Barry Norman didn't like the RoboCop sequels, and they'll go, "Oh, she's still doing the thumbs up," but she got pulled away. Go. Bertha's giving you the thumbs up, Rob. You got to run, mate. She gives you a thumbs up.
Yeah, we've handed over the female lead to someone younger and more attractive now, basically.
Yeah. This is a bit like the A-Team. No one's getting killed. A lot of gunfire.
It looks
going
like
off.
an A-Team set as well, actually. It could easily. It's got those bricks that just don't look real somehow. They probably are, but it looks like... I don't know, I'm assuming this could well be a real...
Oh, yeah, it's certainly a real location, yeah.
It's like they've painted the bricks to make them look weathered.
Games Workshop paint, yes, what goes through it.
Now, why doesn't she follow her here?
She can't squeeze underneath. It's too tight. Like,
was that what we were meant to take from that?
I presume so, yeah. Hello, chum.
Hello, slag.
Hello, slag. Yes. Get in the van.
That was a real, like, oh yeah, okay, that word's probably not quite as... must have a slightly different, not meaning, but value in the States. That's in Britain, that'd be a little bit of a touchy line for a kids' movie.
Well, it's like saying twat, isn't it? Over here, it's a bit more like you can't really use it that often, but in America, because they pronounce it wrong, they throw it everywhere, don't they? They call it twat. It's just like, no, it doesn't sound good at all saying that. You built him? I love how the rehab team basically just get anyone off the streets. They get the punks, they hire the punks, don't they?
Yeah, that's why it would have been fun if there was an Ed 209 army on the good guys' side, because the officials kind of hire the street punks and the street people hire the officials, tools, weapons. It would have been a nice mirroring. It really does ram this sort of social, ethical message home rather too hard, doesn't it? They do a lot of talking about it. It gives it a lot of kind of, I don't know, a lot of...
I suppose that should have been the focus of number 2, though. You know what I mean? So you got this kind of somewhat depressing angle of the social issues, and then number 3 is kind of bringing it all back to sort of save everyone, But I do love the badges when I take them off, because they do like a badge you get out of like a cereal packet.
They're made of tin, aren't they? Well, they're some sort of...
It's like when Homer goes through the cereal and steals the badge.
Yeah.
Hey, I wanted that. It's like calling all cars.
It's just channeling Dan Hurler, isn't he?
Well, yeah, Dan was supposed to come back, but he read the script and didn't like it.
I didn't realise that.
Like, get Rip Torn on the phone now. Is he doing anything? He probably is. He's probably sleeping in a bank at the moment.
Yeah.
Wake him up then. Stop that, chum. Who like to make some money, chum?
He seems unduly confident all the time.
I love him. He's great. John McTaggart is a great character. Oh, yeah, I love this little bit here, little cartoon. They've forgotten that the film needs to have some satire, don't they? Oh yeah, the cartoon, the ad breaks.
Made by David Silverman, this wasn't it? The Simpsons guy.
Yeah.
He directed a lot of the best episodes.
Oh, he did, yeah.
That's brilliant.
It's a bit like Johnny Bravo as well, isn't it?
Yeah. That would have been great. I mean, if this was an 18 or a higher rating, I would like you. I really want to see that guy's head pop when he gets squashed through the.
I love how the reenactment, yeah. Coming up on Fox News.
I've just realised she's in that Barbarian movie. She's the female lead.
My God. This is where the Nico, he sort of spots him picking his nose. Does he eat his bogies? I don't know.
There's another nice shot.
Yeah. Also, we only get a big shot of the city near the end, and also featuring OCP, and you also get the camera looking up at the building, how tall it is, right? But there's no kind of good shots of like a map, like in RoboCop 1, you see him travelling down to, to the city, to the where the OCP is. There's no kind of, you're not getting much kind of a wide scope to this.
Yeah, like you say, it feels small. It feels more like TV in that respect.
Yeah.
It's a shame because those matte paintings are a big part of RoboCop. It's one thing I've realised going back and watching all these in more detail for the commentaries. The matte paintings are a key part. There's a part of the style even, not just a key tool, but...
this future-like city, then it just doesn't really exploit it that much. To keep a sort of visual continuity, because they're not shooting a different format. I think it's a spherical again, like number 2. The number 1 had a tighter aspect ratio. It's kind of 166. It's kind of 185. It's sort of like Aliens, where they what like 1 is CinemaScope, 2 spherical, then 3 and 4 CinemaScope.
Yeah, they're all quite square, aren't they? In my mind.
Yeah. I love the fight going, it's my gun! And the guy's like stabbing his body
stabbing himself as well.
I love how they're basically fighting the punks on Streets of Rage or Streets of Fire or something. But like, that's what if I was making it, Rob, that would be your cameo. You'd be stabbing the armor.
Thank you. I don't know what to make of that.
Or you'd be the drunk guy gets interviewed. He's like, "Oh, it's like it's a bit freaky,"
Okay, right. Thank you. Yeah, that's enough potential roles for Rob, I think. Where was this film? I've forgotten.
It's Atlanta.
Atlanta, that was it, yeah. So again, all three movies filmed in different cities, and none of them the city it's meant to be.
No, but I think they do a pretty good job of the location scouting to find places that kind of resemble what we'd seen in the first one. I think they do a pretty good job. I mean, to a most general public, they would know.
Yeah. If you're not,
unless you lived around there, I think Detroit, like
this is it, isn't it? I mean, America is such a big and diverse place that even I suspect most Americans wouldn't necessarily recognise the difference between a rundown street in Detroit and a rundown street elsewhere.
Yeah. Oh, he's got his arms out, you see. Does this. Don't know why. It's kind of like he's
balancing, surfing.
He's surfing. He's missing some sort of DJ decks to use.
No, surfing.
RoboCop goes Hawaiian.
I can't get it out of my mind now. They're very specific and very small fires, aren't they?
Yes, I was thinking, yeah. They would just be leaving fag butts everywhere to sort of not stub them out, you know.
Put it in your pocket.
Okay, so he's going to get knocked over because RoboCop enjoys lying on the floor in this film. So you can hear a vehicle coming from miles away, but you can't hear that. There you go.
Yeah, we should have had more of this guy, I think.
Yeah, definitely. The more the ninja basically working his way around the city, just taking people out, you know, or anyone who's loosely connected to him, to Robo, or, you know, some of his colleagues.
There aren't nearly enough robotic ninjas in movies, and when you do have one, I think you should make the most of them. Yeah, you can tell he's not used to handling the weapons, can't you? Somehow there's...
I think he's pretty good. I think Bruce.
He looks good doing it, but he doesn't look like he looks like he's doing movie sword work.
Oh, what's that? It's like watching bloody Star Wars prequels. They're constantly spinning their lightsabers around, showing off. It's like, yeah, okay, a simple move, you know, Hugh McGregor, you know. Okay, no, because when he gets his, if you see here, like you can see, there's a big black bit of material between his arms to hide his basically arm, and he's got the dummy arm sticking out.
I love this barricade that they've built. It's like that plastic bike there, that plastic trike's going to make a big difference. I'm sure.
They've got some grass there, you know, that's going to help, innit? Yeah.
They've got some garden furniture too, so maybe they thought they'd better have some grass with it.
Just raid the B&Q or something. Need some like fridges or something. You know what I mean? Fridge freezers all lined up.
So it's the worst thing you can do in any movie, I think, is stop and start thinking, well, that wouldn't happen. And it's the only time I ever do it is when the movie has failed to engage me so fundamentally that my mind started wandering. And this is a classic one for that. There's so many, well, that just wouldn't happen. It couldn't happen. What is going on here? The police are fighting a private security company, basically, who've hired a load of punks. The National Guard would have been called in by this point, or something would have happened, surely.
Why would the punks side with authority?
You give a load of punks a load of guns, the first thing they're going to do is disappear. They're not going to assume they're going to get paid later and hang around.
This is what the establishment think of punks, basically.
Maybe splatter punks are different. Get up! Fuck's sake.
Let's have another nap. God. Who in their right mind thought that would be exciting for RoboCop to be lying down on his arse for the majority of the film? I do like this bit here, this guy, the sort of somewhat, overly cautious rehab guy. He's like, sir? When he's like, RoboCop turns up. Pulling the plug. Out of line, Miss Taggart. Sit down. Good idea. God. Oh, I love Rip Torn. I think it would have been a great Lex Luthor.
He would have been a great Lex Luthor, actually, wouldn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
He'd have been good for doing the voice, actually, as well, in the cartoons.
Man, yeah. You're out of line, Superman. Oh, she got her computer. Her laptop did not have a webcam.
Technology. She has a technology in her hand, a technology thing
Plus
can
and
happen.
minus these cables. Just put it on something and it sends a signal everywhere. It's like she's got those little cables just sort of plugged to a car battery, isn't it? I mean, that family should have had Nukem around the table or something. Playing Nukem.
Yeah, it really looked like that TV had just been put there as well. Like there was a dining room set and oh shit, we need a TV in here.
And a widescreen TV as well.
Get up.
God, get off your arse, Robo. God, he's just constantly lying down. Get up. Just need Mick cut it to Mickey going, get up, you bum. Mickey loves you.
Whoever's done their own cut of this really should have put that in. Because Mickey loves you.
I mean, it should be like The Force, where like Nancy Allen's just like, get up, Robo. You know.
Use your legs, RoboCop. Use your legs.
Like, he looks at for quite a while, doesn't he, before he decides to use it. He's like,
oh, that's an idea.
now when the windows explode, are they supposed to blow in or blow out through sound?
Oh.
Because they blow out, don't they? It's like the explosions happened from within the building and then blown out the glass.
Yeah.
So that's supposed to happen that way?
If I can't remember where the explosion comes from. If it comes from inside,
it comes from the sound. It comes from the sound, though. When he turns up, the windows blow.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
A bit nitpicky now.
Well, that's what happens if you don't entertain us. You get nitpicked. Oh no, not him. He's been injured.
Man
that
who
one
complains.
Yeah,
Superman. Yeah. What in the name? I bet the Japanese love this bit.
This effect, though. I mean,
it's all blue screen, isn't it?
This is the moment at which this film truly jumps the shark. There is no coming back from this. It just looks so awful.
I mean, it's not Superman 4 bad. I mean, he's got lighting going off.
I guess, but
it's such a short sequence, though, isn't it? And then it goes to like a marionette sort of puppet thing, like stop motion puppet that Phil Tippett did. Marionette, what am I talking about? It's not on wires. Sir? It's like Brett Ratner.
I can't stop noticing push-in shots now.
Oh, they're great, aren't they?
I mean, oh my god. It's so bad.
Oh, I loved it. I absolutely loved it as a kid. Or teenager.
So a couple of these shots, he's glowing green and there a bit as well. The reflection of the green screen, obviously.
Well, it's blue screen, but I think it's the chemical process. It's gone a bit skew-if.
Well, it must have. Oh, was it blue screen? I assumed they'd have used green screen with them having a blue tint.
No, it was blue. There's no the Cine Fantastique has the photos in it. It's all blue, but at the end, because he's wearing that suit and a jetpack. God, the weight of that trying to hold him up, and then the quick shot like near the end where he's got the girl on the back and he's holding the woman. It's just like, my God, trying to keep that person up on the wires.
Apparently, they added something like £20 to the suit, fixing it up as well because it had been used and damaged.
God. And it scratches really easy because this one's fiberglass, this suit, for number 2. We're ruined. I love when the stock's just going down, just to sort of visualise that the company's fucked. Sell, sell, sell. I love how the background as well. Like, look at they've got a massive painting of a skyline, but it's all slightly at the wrong angle, so it looks
isn't it? Yeah.
a bit 2D.
Yeah.
How may I help you, slag?
The shot of him smashing through the window is just dreadful as well. He's so obviously on some sort of cable or something. Really, always reminds me of Jaws 3D.
It just like froze, you know. I love because if you watch a pan and scan one on tape, you can see the wires really obvious when he comes through the glass and when he takes off.
Yeah.
Saying, don't count on it, chum. The faces it pulls when he gets shot. I love that because you see the OS, don't you, of the cyborg, the Terminator thingy. It's all like kind of, it's all Japanese writing, isn't it? Again, this sequence here it's supposed to be a little bit more elaborate with their fight, but I don't know what happened here because the way they shoot the death of the two Terminators, essentially, where they cut their heads off, the swords don't even connect. And it's like they've slowed down the wrong sequence as well. You could have had just cut to both heads being cut off, quick, like from each shot, from their perspective, essentially, and then you cut to the wide of their sparks coming off, and they fall to the ground. He's on the floor again.
And what was that? What was that? I hate these fights where you have, like, at any moment. Then the one behind RoboCop could have just decapitated him. He was 2 feet away from him. But when they finally do strike, what did they just do? I didn't really understand what they did. They kind of jumped and their hands went near his neck or something.
Just pushed him over. What are you doing, slag? Get off that laptop, slag. What can I make as that laptop? It just said Bull. What kind of brand is that?
The kind that can hack everything.
Still like, that is so bad.
I mean, this was the big finale fight scene.
Robo's lying on the floor for the finale.
He stood there for a bit. They didn't attack him, and then he fell over. That was it.
I think that would be my one question to Fred Decker. Why did you think it would be interesting for RoboCop to be on the floor all the time?
And he says that the problem is he didn't have the money to hire a Hong Kong stunt team. But you don't need to hire, like, he loves his Hong Kong movies, and I agree with him. Hong Kong stunt teams are the best in the world. But you don't need a Hong Kong stunt team to have a fight scene.
No. The stunt coordinator can do that.
Cables.
They can come up with something really quickly. The miniature of the building exploding is quite bad. Like, this is a bit of cardboard flies off it in a minute. Watch.
Oh yeah, it's
disappointing.
Bad green screening again.
There's a cool miniature of it collapsing, and everyone's like, running away. You know, that'd been great.
Yeah, that was a classic. Well, it looks like a classic. We've run out of money and shit the bed for the finale.
Yeah.
I'm only just processing it now, but the entire finale really is a handful of punks walk towards some cops. They shoot at each other, and then RoboCop falls over. That's the whole exciting conclusion.
Well, he flew over quickly, didn't he, and took them out, and then fell over. It'd be so good if, like, the jetpack sort of, like, just the weight of it made him fall over. That would be great.
It feels like a cop-out as well, having Mako or Marco. So, I mean, the guy has done a deal to forcibly remove these people so he can build on their houses. But now he's come down here and seen their pluck and their spirit.
Well, he's seen Robo and he has respect for him, doesn't he? That's what Japanese do. They show respect. My friends call me Murphy. You can call me Robo Flop. He just flops on the floor. But who's going to provide you with maintenance now, RoboCop?
Yeah. He's going to spoon feed you your baby food.
Yeah, and WD-40 all over you to keep you all greased up. Dun, 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 dun.
God, never has a movie been less deserving of its theme tune. It's just completely wrong.
And this film does have, it's had said before, I think, one of the longest end credits. They play out so slowly, just like, okay, this movie needs to be a certain runtime. Okay, well, let's make the end credits really long.
It's only 137 minutes, yeah.
And this film is, it's got another, oh my God, like 10 minutes or something.
Yeah, that's modern territory for.
Yeah, but
it's actually relatively short for modern territory, but
feels so weirdly long. Anyway, so yeah, RoboCop 3. I saw it as a teenager, very young teenager. I loved it at the time. In my mind, though, I was kind of lying to myself because I knew it wasn't particularly good. Weird. I was quite, when this film was coming out, I was kind of really excited because there was, we had the video games. I read the comics, but I was like, where's this bloody film? I was reading like Impact magazine. They were advertising RoboCop 3 was going to be, finally arriving. But again, I couldn't see it at the cinema because it was 15, and I did see it. I was like, a bit gutted by, the lack of violence. But I was in that impressionable age where I kind of accepted what I saw and kind of thought, okay, and then the TV show was on. But I was just consuming this kind of dialed back version of Robo, and there was the excitement of seeing it, obviously the TV show, but something was always in the back of my mind was missing. I kind of realised that what made RoboCop exciting for me was the violence and the satire, and and that was all kind of missing. It was all gone.
You're absolutely right. I don't think you need to understand the satire to find it amusing, because it generally, in the first film anyway, it works on two different levels. It's not just satire; it's also effectively slapstick a lot of the time, or something. Some other form of humour as well, and yeah, that's just not here.
Unfortunately missing. I mean, I do sympathise with Fred Dekker. I always kind of have a bit of a soft spot for him, and I appreciate that he's very honest about how things turned out, and it was his mistake, and he takes the full blame for it. But he was handed essentially a sort of double-edged sword, maybe, sort of. Because he had to follow what Orion wanted. They wanted a film that was family friendly. And it's very difficult to do that. It's like, okay, we're going to make a Nightmare on Elm Street film family friendly. Like, what? You'd be like, just kind of screwed.
The smart move is to keep making the movies for adults, but market them at kids, because, that's essentially what Nightmare on Elm Street did. You mentioned Freddy.
Yeah.
Because kids will still see them, and they'll get into the cinema, and they'll certainly buy the videos.
Yeah, and you have licensed songs in it to sort of create, sort of appealing to the music as well, maybe. But yeah, I don't know why they decided that, because kids were still buying the toys, playing the games, reading the comics when they've got these R-rated movies kind of there, and they're going to see it, one way or another. But I think that was Orion's biggest mistake, was trying to appeal to children with this, with the film itself, and not the merchandise.
That's not the only problem, though, is it? It is.
No.
It is a very dull film. Ultimately, I like I said at the beginning, I enjoyed it a lot more, and I now enjoy it. But there are some really dull stretches. There are some really dull ideas, and there's a lot less to talk about as well than almost any of the movies we've done commentaries on. There's just not much to get hold of in any way.
Yeah, because when you've got someone sitting down stroking a child to sort of comfort her, it's not particularly exciting. For maybe like 5-10 minutes of seeing that. Yeah, it's an odd one, isn't it? I don't hate the film, but my frustration is all stems from like it's being dialed back in its violence, and you could sometimes put up with a kind of a somewhat of a clunky story if the action excites you, and that's its problem. The action is not exciting. It really needed it to be even trimmed down even more to make those somewhat lackluster sequences a bit more thrilling to watch. It lacks energy.
Yeah.
That's what it does. And everything's by the numbers. Everyone enjoyed making it, but there was no sort of like, it felt like everything was going smoothly. You know what I mean? It's all done on time. It's all on budget. There's no, it pleases the studio, but there's no like, just like, let's really go crazy with this. There was none of that. And very much played safe, really safe.
It's a missed opportunity. That's what always frustrates me with movies like this is, given the amount of crap I watch, where people have just put their heart and soul into making something when they've got no money, no talent, no resources. This is fine, the budget was cut right back, but it's almost Phantom Menace level missed opportunity, balls up, really.
If you'd given this like Albert Pune, he would have gone crazy with it.
Yeah, wouldn't
like Nemesis. You want that crazy editing like in Nemesis, like bonkers over the. And he's doing it for like a fraction of the budget.
Yeah, he'd have made it for a quarter of the money as well, at least. Yeah. Well, it's a learning curve, I suppose. Orion, I guess, learnt something from this just a bit too late.
They should have got Craig Baxley, who did, I Come in Peace and what's that?
Yeah.
Things like, he's so good at action. Just giving it to him, he would have gone crazy with it. Explosions everywhere, everyone getting blown to bits.
Matthias Hughes in the robo suit.
Yeah,
that would have been good.
He'd been too big though, wouldn't he? But I would have loved if Matthias Hughes was in it. That would be good. He'd been a good villain.
Damn straight.
Well, Rob, what is next on the agenda? I think it's got to be a Terminator film, isn't it? It's got to be Terminator Genesis.
Oh yeah, cool. No, I'm looking forward to that actually, because I have no memory of the last 2 or 3. I don't even know how many there are Terminator movies. I've only seen them once each.
There's 5, isn't there? So Genesis and Dark Fate.
Right, cool.
So yeah, back to Terminator, people.
That sounds fun. Yes, lots of good complaining to be done there.
There's going to be a lot of frustration there with that one. But anyway, folks, hope you enjoyed the commentary. As I said, me, Rob, will be back with Terminator Genesis. Take care and goodbye.